Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. It all massively helps out, and let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from a throwaway account who says, I was separated from my child 12 years ago. If possible, I'd like to try and contact him, but his mother got a restraining order against me a long time ago. Is there any legal way to proceed? Throwaway for privacy reasons. Here goes. 14 years ago, I was married and we had a baby boy. At that time, I was not in a good place at all. I had serious mental health issues due to things that happened during my childhood, which led to deep depression, which I left untreated for a long time. I was a mess. I did drugs sometimes. I was unable to take care of myself, even less of a child. Even if I loved him a huge lot. I was unable to connect to people and to be a good father because of my poor mental health. I also have anger issues and hated myself with a passion. I was unable to keep a job and had no stable income, even though I have skills. My wife tried to help, but at some point it was too much and she left with the child. We had a divorce when my son was about 2, and she got full custody, which I'm first to admit was the right thing for the kid. I would never have abused him, but I wasn't able to supervise him properly and offer him the emotional stability a child needs. Soon after she left, my ex-wife met someone and moved in with him. Then they got married. I know him a little and he's a good, stable person. I knew my kid was in a good home, so it was fine. I didn't really try to see him often at the time because I was too busy spiraling. Moreover, I didn't think it would be good for him, which I now understand was probably not true, but at the time I wasn't able to make sound decisions. I paid some child support, not much because of my low income, but I always made the payments I was required to. Then an incident happened. My ex-wife agreed to meet me in a bar because I wanted to talk to her, and when we were there, I got frustrated at how the discussion went. I yelled at her, got mad at a man who tried to intervene, and ended up outside fighting with him, which terrified my ex-wife. In the end, the guy had pity on me because he saw what a sorry mess I was and let it go. However, that was it for my ex-wife, and she said she never wanted me around anymore because I was dangerous. Her father had anger management issues too, so she didn't want to go through this again, and she got a restraining order against me, which I respected. She told me she would never let me near our child for fear I would hurt him. I would never, but I understand how she could come to this conclusion after I had been verbally violent with her. Anyway, I was sure that I would soon be dead, so I gave up and didn't really try and see my son after that. Soon thereafter, I was persuaded to relinquish my parental rights so his stepfather could adopt him. I thought he was young enough to forget me and he now had a good family. It hurt a lot doing this, but I was convinced it was the right thing to do for him. I felt completely worthless at the time, so I thought it was all for the better, and I got completely out of his life. However, time passed, and after years of misery and struggling and wanting to die, I finally received help and support and somehow got my shit together. I dealt with my suffering and turned my life around in a way I would never have thought possible, and I've changed for the better. All this time it hurt a lot to be without my kid, even if I knew he was in a safe place. Knowing he was there somewhere has been one of the motivators for climbing out of the hole. I still miss him terribly, and I wonder how he's doing, what he's up to, what his life is like. I want him to know I'm there for him if he wants me. I'm not even sure if he knows about me. I'm aware contacting him could be very upsetting, and I don't want to do this to him or his family. So I'd like to ask his mother what she thinks about it, and I'm prepared to be told no, and what she told him about me. But I'm not supposed to contact her because of the restraining order. I don't want to do anything illegal. Moreover, I have a good job now and would risk being fired if I did. I'm lost and don't know what to do. I know it's my fault if I didn't have any contact with him for all of this time. I take full responsibility for that, and I understand that I'm not legally his father anymore. So my question is this: is there a way I can get around this without breaking the restraining order or doing anything wrong or illegal? The last thing I want to do is mess things up once more. And I'll just give you an overview of the comments on this one because a lot of them are very much the same in asking if the restraining order is still in effect, because there's a maximum length of time for an order is 1 year in the location that OP is. Therefore, he wouldn't be breaking any laws if he did get in contact, but also they're saying, don't do it without permission. That he did the right thing, letting the child grow up in a stable and loving home when OP couldn't themselves. Some people saying OP has no rights, others saying wait till the child is like 18 and then attempt to contact him. Some say use an attorney to get in contact with the ex on behalf of him. Then OP went on to say, as you advised me, I got a lawyer and he was able to confirm that the restraining order was indeed expired and had been for a long time. This means I'm free to contact my son's mother. Ask her if he knows about me and if she would be willing to let me write to him. Again, thanks a lot. You might not realize it, but your advice gave me the boost of confidence I need to start this process when I was stuck thinking there was no hope because of the restraining order. Time to move to the next step now. Not the easiest, and pray my ex-wife will react well with me contacting her after all this time. OP then goes on to say, I wrote a letter to my ex-wife. I'll spare you the detail, but in it I apologize for what I've done and took responsibility for it. I also told her that I've made efforts to better myself and how I got my act together, and that I'm aware she only has my word as proof for it, and I know that's not much. I asked if she would let me know how she and my son were doing and if she'd be willing to share a bit of info about his life. I asked if he knows about me and if she thinks there's a chance she would let me contact him at some point in the future. I also added that I won't make any further attempt at contact if she doesn't answer or if she asks me to stop. I really wasn't sure she would answer, but she did. It was a long and emotional letter. I don't want to say too much, but she says she has forgiven me and she's glad I'm doing better. She, my son, and her husband are doing well. My son is a happy young man. He's doing great in school and has a nice group of friends. She finds him very mature for his age. He knows what he wants to do with his future. He has a good relationship with his parents and siblings. Reading this has been a huge relief. I'm so glad he's doing well. She said I was right to give him up for adoption, however difficult it may have been. I knew it, but reading it from my ex-wife has been incredibly comforting. My son knows he's adopted, and he knows why his mum left with him and why he's never met me. Apart from that, he doesn't know much about me. He's asked a few questions over the years and his mother has answered truthfully. And she writes that she hasn't badmouthed me and I believe her. As for contacting him in the future, she'll think about it, but she and her husband need to talk about it first and see if my son wants it. And obviously my ex-wife and her husband will need to talk to me to see if I've changed for real. She said that she needs time to think about it and she doesn't want to rush things, but whatever they decide in the end, she won't keep me in the dark. So now, all I've got to do is wait. This is a positive outcome. Knowing my son is doing great is what I had been hoping for all these years, and it helps a lot. Even more than I would have expected. Even if I'm not sure there will be contact in the future. There's hope, so that's fine. OP then updated their post again, which says great things have happened over the last few months. My ex-wife wrote me a second letter a few weeks after she first answered mine and said she'd be willing to meet with me so we could talk. I hadn't thought she'd want to do this because the last time I saw her was when I scared her so much. So we met for the first time in almost 12 years. We met in a coffee shop. Needless to say, we were both very emotional, but things went well and we ended up remaining there all afternoon talking about a lot of the things we needed to get off our chests. I was finally able to apologize in person for the things I put her through. I told her about my years of darkness and suffering and what caused them, the struggle to get better and the progress I've made towards healing and turning my life around. She said again that she forgives me and she understands that I was in a lot of pain, that it wasn't easy, and that it makes her happy to see where I am now because in spite of it all, part of her was still worrying about me. She told me about her life with our son and the 2 kids she has with her second husband. They are a great family and I'm really grateful that my son is growing up between loving parents and siblings and that he's happy. We are able to talk with an open heart and we both cried a lot. But that did us a lot of good, I think. Then over the following weeks I met 2 more times with my ex and her husband to discuss potentially contacting my son. They seem to agree that I'm much better than I was and I have my act together now and that I've been able to get somewhere in life. They are willing to trust me and I am extremely grateful to them for giving me a chance. I wouldn't have even dreamed of that until a few months ago. I told them how thankful I am that they shared news of my son with me and told me about his life. Not knowing how he was for all that time, while there was good reasons for that, has been very tough. From what my ex-wife and her husband told me, in the last 2 years or so, my son has been asking questions about why he was adopted. His parents have explained why his mum had to leave and take him with her, and how I wasn't able to be a father for him due to my issues and that I gave up my parental rights so his stepdad could raise him like his own son. They have told him the truth and haven't sugarcoated anything. He has asked once if they knew what had become of me. At the time they didn't, so after we met they decided to tell him that we've been in contact and asked him how he feels about it. He has had a rather positive reaction. He said it was cool. They told him also that I've asked if I could write him a letter, but it would only happen if he's fine with it and there's no pressure for him to say yes or to answer in any way. From what they told me, he talked about it with friends and decided that he'd be okay with receiving a letter from me. I'm currently writing one. To be exact, I've written and torn up about 30 versions of it in the last few days. To first thank him for letting me contact him and tell him that I love him and I'm there for him if he has any questions about me. Why I couldn't raise him or anything. I write that he's under no obligation of any kind to answer or do or say anything because I completely understand that from his point of view, I'm a stranger and I'm not asking for anything from him. And I won't contact him in the future if he doesn't want me to, but I'll be there if he needs anything. I'm incredibly thankful things went so well and I finally have the chance to contact my son. Just 6 months ago, I wouldn't have dared hoping for such an outcome. I feel better now than I ever have. Talking to my ex-wife has been incredibly comforting. I've been crying tears of relief every day for a few weeks. I wasn't aware that I needed it so bad. I feel whole for the first time in a very long time and typing this feels wonderful. OP continues, after discussing at long with my ex-wife and her husband, I wrote a letter to my son. I made it short. Just told him I was his bio dad and that he has learned from his parents that I had given up on him for adoption because of some of the issues I had. I told him a few things about my life, where I live, my job, my girlfriend, and so on. I let him know that I was there if he wanted to write back or if he had any questions about me, that if he didn't want to, I would disappear from his life and not bother him any longer. I waited about 3 weeks for an answer. It came under a form I had not been expecting. My son texted me one evening to say hello and wish me a happy new year. We exchanged a few texts, small talk, but that meant a huge lot to me. I had left my phone number with my letter just in case, but I'd imagined he would have written a letter if he wanted to talk to me. I thought I would have time to think about my answer, but with a text I had to answer fast and not let my emotions overwhelm me. In the following weeks we had exchanged texts a few more times. It's great because he's very direct and has no trouble asking me questions. He wants to know where I come from. He's asked things about my family and my childhood. That one is a bit hard because I have no family left and my childhood was a nightmare and I don't want him to be disturbed by that. I've left out the worst for now. One day out of the blue he texted me that he'd like to meet me face to face. That was before the pandemic because texting is okay, but he'd like to see what I'd look like. I didn't expect that at all. I thought he'd want maybe to call or Skype one day, but I never imagined he would ask to meet me so soon. He said his parents were okay with it. I imagine they must have been saying good things about me if it prompted him to ask to meet me. So we arranged for my son, his family and I to meet at a skate park to do some hiking and a picnic together. At first I was very tense and didn't know what to expect, but the day went quite well. I even managed not to cry, even though I was sure I would. We had fun, we talked a lot, mostly about my son's hobbies, sports, school, well, the things that matter into a teenager's life. He asked about my job, where I live, my hobbies, even about my girlfriend. At no moment did we feel awkward, which had been a fear of mine. My son is smart and I can see that he has a good relationship with his parents and siblings, and I'm very glad about that. They look like a loving and stable family, which is what I hoped to be providing him with when I gave up my rights. We didn't speak in detail of the reasons why I had to give him up for adoption all the time when I wasn't doing well. I think it's all well for now. His mum told him about it a bit, but not all the detail. We'll discuss in the future if and when he wants to. We had a good day together and I feel really thankful for having been able to meet him. My son said he would hope to meet me again soon so he could get to know me better, which of course makes me very happy. I also hope one day that he can meet my girlfriend, soon to be wife. The pandemic has kind of derailed that for now, but we'll meet again soon, I'm sure. In the meantime, we still exchange texts regularly and Skype from time to time. I've set up a trust fund for him that should help if and when he goes to college. I don't plan to have another kid and I can afford it, so it's only fair. After all, I brought him into this world, so I feel it's my responsibility even if I didn't raise him. I hope we can build a relationship and maybe one day he'll invite me to his graduation. That's a dream of mine. We'll see how it goes. Meeting him has brought me a lot of joy and comfort. It gives me closure in a way that's a very good feeling and I needed that. I know I'll need to navigate our relationship carefully, but I feel confident that it will work and there's a lot more for us in the future. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below and let's move on to another story. We're just going to cover a cheeky little wholesome story which comes from our very own subreddit r/marknarrations. Don't forget to share yours there. And it's from the user AMRJS who says wholesome story. A package that took months to arrive. This took place 21 to 22 years ago in June, July. My family would travel every summer to England to visit my grandmother and dad's family who still lived there. For a while we would stay a week with my grandmother and we would spend a week doing a road trip and spending time somewhere else in the UK. That summer we travelled to Scotland and stayed somewhere in the northernmost Scotland. Inverness perhaps? It was only 7 or 8, so I can't remember where exactly. As we travelled around, we went somewhere touristy and I got a tartan pattern journal that I immediately wrote down my name and address in, just in case and because I wanted to practice. I also decided to write it in English because we were in the UK. Duh. This turned out to be a very good thing for the rest of the story. However, I did a pretty poor job of it. We visited a lovely shop where we purchased a couple of things and left a couple of things behind. One thing was my journal, another thing was my older sister's pair of shoes that she had been wearing, and some things that we had bought there. Good thing to note, we were undiagnosed ADHD back then, so forgetting things everywhere was a bit of me and my sister's memo. We were of course sad things were lost, but we couldn't go back and get them for various reasons. We wrote it off as lost, like many things were when we were younger. So when we get back to Sweden, forgot about all of this, and then around October we got a big package delivered to us. I had no idea what it was about, except the address was close to illegible, and it was from Scotland. When we opened it we found everything we accidentally left behind. The lovely store owners in Scotland had decided to send a pretty expensive package to Sweden. Only my poorly written attempt at English and our home address had the package bouncing around Switzerland for months, before ending up in Sweden for a while until it finally ended up in the right hands. The stamps etc. were fun to read. So we got the things we bought and forgot, and the things we lost and forgot back to us. It still makes me smile thinking about it because they didn't have to send the stuff, and the post offices that didn't give up and write the addresses off as a loss, and that they actually figured out where it was meant to go. So many people have taken the time to get it to us. I love it. I would make fun of my sister to have lost the shoes that had been on her feet unless I wouldn't have done the same some years later. And that is a nice little story. I often think about stuff like that. What was that person thinking at that time? Just a kind soul going about their day in their shop and think, oh, I'll send this stuff back to them. And it's like whenever we cover these wholesome stories, it's created that memory for you as well, thinking about that time you went back to Scotland and that lovely shop you went to. And wouldn't it be nice to find that shop? I mean, it was 22 years ago, it might not even be there now, but to see if it was still there, I think that'd be absolutely fantastic. And if it was there, write them a little letter back, but who knows if it's still there this day and age. But thank you so much for sharing your little story. And as I said, don't forget to share. If you've got your own little wholesome tale that you'd like to share, r/Mark Narrations. We're all for it over here. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories, your love, support, and time. And just a huge thank you to the members that joined the channel as well. It's never expected, but always hugely appreciated. So thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today